Hey guys, welcome to the Harryman Show, number 35. Today I got Phoenix-based drummer Rory Cameron. This guy is a great session drummer, huge vintage drum collection. This guy knows how to tune anything, make it sound great in some of his clips and videos. He also plays in a band called Vinyl Station. What's going on, Roy?
Hey man, hey Dustin.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dustin. How's it going? I'm calling you by not your right name. First of all, Daniel, Dustin.
That's fine.
I'm good, man. I'm very good. Thanks for having me. This is it's a pleasure, real pleasure.
Yeah, just a backstory. I mean, I'm always looking for good drummers out there, and I had a good friend named Gary Romero that kind of passed me your way that you actually are friends with, and he was like, you gotta check this guy out. I mean, his drums sound pristine. He knows what he's doing, and I started watching it. I couldn't stop watching. Not the fanboy on you, but like it just everything was right as what he said.
Well, thanks, man. Since the beginning of the lockdown, I've kind of been forced to be at home all the time. So I wasn't putting out as many videos as I am now, just because I have more time. And I figured I would use the lockdown time to really try and hone mixing these videos for Instagram, like mixing them for people's phones, because that's, you want people to listen with headphones, but most people, I'm sure, still are not.
No, and their attention span is real short, so you got to get them in.
So you want to, trying to get the kick and everything sounding really good to where it's not distorting a phone. This was just decided to get into that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because before that, I was maybe doing one or two videos a week and just kind of, still spending time on the mixing. I do love recording and mixing. I got into it as a hobby, just to record myself for practice purposes, maybe 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. But then, about 10 years ago, at my old house, I had a guest house, and I made that into a real studio and actually opened it as a business.
Oh, nice.
So I kind of, was recording a few bands and singers and stuff like that. And so that really helped, obviously, because, you kind of have to know, you have to learn EQ techniques and compression and mic placement and all that. And that's, that's invaluable. It is. It's really great information.
Well, before we get into that, I'm going to ask you plenty of questions about that, but I kind of want to go back into your origins a little bit.
Sure.
I didn't know until this morning you were actually born in Scotland, and you came to America from there. But was it the same upbringing you imagine being in Scotland and America as far as listening to rock music and that type of stuff?
I think so. I mean, so I was born and raised in a town called Ayr, which is the southwest of Scotland, near Glasgow, I suppose, is the biggest city it's close to.
Okay.
And my parents, my dad, although he was a math teacher, he was also a musician. He played guitar and he sang, and my mother would also sing. They used to go to open mics together when they were young. And so there was always a lot of music in the house. And my dad loved all kinds of music, from traditional Irish and Scottish music through to American music, Paul Simon, Bruce Springsteen, like all the. So I was exposed to a lot of different stuff growing up, which is great. Variety is always essential when you're trying to learn an instrument. When you hear different people playing and different styles, I mean, it all just helps. So I'm really thankful for that.
I guess my question was it easy to find vinyls and cassette tapes over in that that site as far as like American stuff?
Oh yeah.
Oh, nice.
I mean, I had, as far as I can remember, I was big into vinyl. I was always able to go to the record shop and get whatever I wanted.
That's good.
Pink Floyd was, although they're not American, but Pink Floyd, The Wall was one of the first albums I played along to when I got my first drum set.
Oh, nice.
I used to play along to it before going to school in the morning.
That probably didn't help your attitude towards
No, not at all. It's funny because I remember hearing that song. I remember hearing Another Brick in the Wall. Because my older brother, I have one older brother, and I was heavily influenced by his music choices as well. He was really into music. And so I heard this Another Brick in the Wall, and there's that drum break where it's just the drums and the open hi-hat, boom, bat, boom, bat, and I thought, I think I know how to do that. I think I know how to do it. And I just remember, like, the first time I got behind a drum set, that was the first thing I tried to play. Mm-hmm. And of course, my feet fumbled. When I tried to open the hi-hat with my left foot, it all just fell apart.
Yeah.
And I realized it wasn't quite as easy as it sounded.
No, it's kind of weird how you look at it. Like, I could do that, and then it's a whole different. It's like driving an 18-wheeler truck when you first get on. So, but did you start off on a drum set, or did you start traditionally with a snare drum?
No, I didn't get. My parents, I guess they didn't want to get a drum set initially because it was so loud. We lived in a row of 15 a terrace of houses. So all the houses are together, big houses, but they're all joined together in a big long row, big terrace. This thing was built in the 1800s or 1900s. This thing's beautiful. It's a great house.
I imagine,
but. Yeah, without really soundproofing a room and doing all that, like, there wasn't going to be any way for me to have a drum kit and for the neighbors not to get really annoyed. So
yeah.
I think my parents, I was obviously very into music early on. Like, they told me countless stories about listening to records and all of this stuff. But the first instrument I probably played or tried to play was the guitar, because that's what my dad played.
Oh, nice.
And he taught my brother. And even though I was always interested in drums, I kind of was like, well, if Neil's learning, then maybe I should pick up the guitar too. So I learned a few chords, and that was fun because then I could teach myself songs that I liked, and sing them. I just found that I liked to do that. But it wasn't enough. It didn't grab my attention enough to where I was like, I really must do this, And then they tried me on keyboard lessons as well. Mm-hmm. Same thing with that. It was, even though it's more percussive, it just didn't. It wasn't a drum set. It wasn't what I wanted to do. So
yeah.
So.
Now, were you taking lessons through schooling, or did you find a private instructor right away when you actually got into it?
Well, I got my first drum set when I was 14, and honestly, in the small town where I was, I didn't really. There was one drum teacher that I knew of, this older guy, and I went once, and it was like, it wasn't one on one. It was a class of kids. They were all, and I felt they were all more advanced than me in some ways, and I just wanted to sit down and play some beats, But he was one of the teachers that was like, okay, you're not getting on the drum kit until you can do this. Mm-hmm. And I got turned off. I was like, this is, I felt bad because I knew that I should be taking lessons, but at that time, at 14 or whatever, I just didn't have the patience to sit there with just a snare drum and a pad. I was like, I want to play music. And so, because I already had a band with my friends, I was already playing songs. I felt like I knew how to play drums already somehow,
Yeah.
So anyway, I didn't really take a proper lesson until I was 18.
Oh, wow.
That's when I started. And for those first 4 years, I was teaching myself, watching videos, in slow motion. There was just anything I could do to learn from the guys I was into.
I'm gonna stop you. Are you influenced by Steve Gadd a lot? Because I hear that in your playing quite a bit.
Oh, thanks.
I hope you take it as a compliment.
Oh, of course. I mean, yeah. It's hard not to be influenced by him in some way because he's such an innovator. Like we all play the way we do to some extent because of him, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm a massive fan of Steve Gadd.
Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I can hear it. No. I can hear it in your hi-hat and your snare shuffles and stuff. So.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. He's incredible, and yeah, definitely one of my favorites.
Yeah,
definitely.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's fine. So yeah, I hadn't really taken a proper lesson until I was 18. I wasn't interested when I was at high school in joining the orchestra. Mm-hmm. Sitting there and waiting 24 bars to play a little snare pattern. It wasn't. I had my friends. We were playing U2 songs.
Oh, nice.
And we were just, that was what I wanted to do. And I loved that. I loved the feeling of playing a song with the guys. Mm-hmm. But then a friend of mine started taking lessons with a guy in town who's just a few years older than me, like my brother's age, but very accomplished at this point. And I'd heard about this guy. His name is Andy McGlasson, and so I started going to him for lessons, and we hit it off immediately because he was just a little bit older than me. we became kind of friends, and it was a weekly thing. And he taught me how to read. He told me who Steve Gadd was, even though I'd been listening to him. I didn't know who he was. I had always loved 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover as a young guy because of they mentioned Roy in the chorus, right? And I was like, oh, that's my name. But I remember listening to the drums of that and recognizing that it wasn't your normal drum beat that he was playing, whoever this drummer was.
Yeah.
But anyway, I started my formal lessons didn't start till 18, but then I was kind of into it and taking it more seriously at that point.
And I noticed that I didn't know there was an MIT in London. I didn't know there's MI. I'm sorry, MI. I didn't know there was one in London. I thought there was just one in LA here.
Yeah, there was one in London. I believe it was a franchise. Huh. Like they had franchised the name somehow.
Wow.
And yeah, it was a guitarist in one of the bands I was in Scotland got accepted to this place in London using a demo that I had played on, and they had sent back that they loved it and all that, and so that's when I thought, well, maybe I should go to London and
nice,
see if I can do this too,
Yeah, and
because at that point,
sorry,
no, at that point I wasn't. At that point, I was going to college for something completely different. I was going to college for basically hotel and catering management is what I was doing. It was a 2-year course.
Oh.
And because when I came out of school, there wasn't like a drum school I could go to, or I had to find like something to do after leaving high school.
Yeah.
And so that's what I ended up doing, and I ended up working in a bar and managing a bar and all of that, and playing drums on the side. But then when I was 22 is when my buddy got accepted to the thing in London, and I was like, hey man, I think I'm going to come with you. If I could just get the money together, I'm coming. And so anyway, we went to MI, and it was a very intensive 1-year course with some great teachers. I had Thomas Lang was one of the teachers there at that point.
Oh really? I didn't know that.
he hadn't really broken into the American scene at that point. But it had been making obviously massive waves in Britain. He was there. I think he was a friend of the main sort of CEO of the school or whatever, and he was there as a favor, basically. And his class was called Applied Technique.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. I mean, he was incredible. It was, he would show up and arrange the drums and sit down and just blaze. And everybody would come in and watch, like bassists, guitarists. They'd all just be in there watching him,
Yeah. On a side note, I found him he came out with a DVD called Creative Control, and that's when I first noticed him. And I know he looked like a cyborg when he was playing, which is like too much. Like it's like, he's still that way. No, don't get me wrong, but he's a little bit more, Americanized, I guess would be the best to put it. I mean, but
yeah.
But he was extreme when I first saw it, and it's a little bit more easier to gaps it. But yeah, just a side note, when I saw him, it was like, what?
Yeah. Oh, it was. I'd never seen technique like that displayed like that. The only other time I'd seen it was when I saw Virgil Donati.
Yeah, there's
doing a clinic in Scotland, and I'd never heard of the guy, and he was doing a double bill with this British drummer. I think his name was Steve Washington, and he played on a lot of like R&B and groove stuff. It was a very contrasting clinic. It was started off with Steve Washington, and he did his thing, and I always remember at the end of the clinic, he's like, "Well, if you like that, wait till you hear this guy." And we were like, "Oh, we've never heard of her." And Virgil got up and was doing all the rudiments with his feet, and I was like, "I don't even know what's happening. I've never seen anything like this in my life." Like, what is this? This freak of nature. And Thomas is definitely like that,
Yeah.
But we had amazing teachers at MI. I'm so thankful. I still have their notes. I still look at their stuff. It was a really great year. And that was the beginning of me moving to the States, because I met who is now my ex. We're great friends, but my ex-wife was from Florida, and she was in London at the same time I was.
Okay. And
she was doing her BA in theater. So
is that how you got into the Disneyland band or Disney World band?
Yeah, exactly. So I met her. We had we met in London, and then when her time was up in London, she had to come back, and we decided that I was going to move to the States rather than her move to the UK. So
Mhm.
yeah, we started off in the Tampa area, and I was just doing temp work or whatever. And then this Disney audition came up for a parade at Epcot. That was starting at the end of 1999, and I went to the audition and got the gig. And so then we moved to Orlando, and that was my foot in the door at Disney.
Oh, nice.
And I did that. That parade was only supposed to be a Millennium Parade, quote unquote, that lasted a year, but it was successful. It was called the Tapestry of Nations,
okay,
I think. And it was at Epcot, and it was massively successful. So they kept it going. It ended up going for about 3 years. So that was a nice gig. It was like that was like my base gig. I had that. I had a wedding band. I had my church gig. I had some studio work, and I was teaching. So I had typical kind of self-employed drummer
now
stuff going on.
The Disney World gig, was that a full costume gig, or was it more on the casual
Oh no, it's full costume. There's no gig at Disney without a costume.
Oh yeah, I imagine it probably get a little humid and hot there. So
oh yeah, so yes, it was brutal for sure. The costume, if you just Google Tapestry of Nations drummers, you'll see what I mean. It's crazy. It was like some kind of a knight or I don't even know what it was, but it was a heavy costume. And yes, in the summer with that 95% humidity, it was brutal.
Yeah,
like the show was only about half hour long, but still, it was rough.
Yeah, you gotta condition yourself for that, for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. And then the next gig I did after that, like that gig ended, and then I didn't work at Disney for a year, but another parade came up, this time at the Animal Kingdom, and I auditioned for that and got that. Again, different costume, different. I was on another float, like the other gig was on a float with drums.
Mm-hmm.
This was another float gig, playing electronic drums and waving at people, basically. And but it was steady income, and it was good income. And Disney were it was a fair in terms of
well, there's a dream gigs. Not a lot of people get those gigs. You have to know your stuff and be solid. Disney doesn't mess around.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. And definitely, once you had your foot in the door, it was easier when it came to other things. Like the last gig I did at Disney was finally a drum set gig, and it was actually a perfect gig for me because it was with a Celtic rock band.
Oh, nice.
Who are no longer there, but at the time they were one of the bigger bands at Epcot. And a friend of mine, I had hired the bass player in that band for another project,
mm-hmm.
and then he needed a sub for Offkilter at Disney, and so he asked me if I would learn the book.
Okay.
And come and do it, and I did, and it was great. That was like full on, drums, bass, guitar, keys, bagpipes, and just really great fun. So I did that until 2008, which was when I moved to Phoenix.
Oh, nice. And then you mentioned that you started the studio here with a guest house. So was that around the time when you moved to Phoenix?
Yeah, that was like 2010. Back in Florida, I had a little drum room. That's when I kind of started learning
mm-hmm.
recording and whatnot. But I didn't really take it serious. I didn't really get into it on a more serious level until I moved to Phoenix. Yeah, about 2010.
Oh, nice.
I kind of got things together in the studio and opened it for business.
And then, are you primarily just doing recording, or are you giving lessons as well in there?
I was mostly just recording.
Okay.
I think for lessons, you really need to have a dedicated facility with 2 sets.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Set up and stuff like that. And the way I had built the room, I had made like a drum booth and a kind of a live room area
mm-hmm.
and another small booth. So there wasn't really room to have 2 drum sets.
Yeah, and that's the thing about lessons, you want to have a walkway, restroom, a waiting area, etc. You kind of have to
mm-hmm.
you have to make it more of a front face business kind of type of thing.
Exactly. And I realized that I didn't have really the space to do both, to have it as a recording studio and as a teaching studio.
Yeah.
And apart from that, I had done quite a lot of teaching in Orlando. I'd worked at a really great drum store. And I had my own room. Billy Ashball was one of the teachers there as well.
Oh yeah, I had him on the show quite a while ago. He's a great guy.
Yeah, he's great. Billy's awesome. so that was really good. I enjoyed a lot of the teaching, but I also found that I didn't enjoy a lot of aspects of teaching.
Yeah.
Especially on that kind of thing when you're dealing with younger people, and
it's hard. Not to enter. It's hard to get people into if they're not into it. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's frustrating when the kid shows up and
checking his watch.
He's checking his watch. He's got his excuses and his lies and his it's just a waste of time. And I actually ended up saying to a couple of parents, like, you're wasting your money.
Well, I mean, you're doing more of a service, being honest. I've been there before
and
myself.
That's it. Like, I cleared it with the guys at the store, with the owners of the store. I said, look, this is frustrating. It's, I just want to say something, and they're like, go ahead. So I did.
Yeah.
I said, look, he might tell you he's practicing, but I'm telling you he's not.
Yeah, and it gets obvious after about the third or fourth lesson.
Yeah. I said, find something else for this kid. But so anyway, I think I learned that I didn't enjoy teaching enough to pursue it as more of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I like one-on-one lessons. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm still not set up for it, but if somebody comes over, the two of us can stand behind the drum set and we can exchange ideas and stuff like that. That's fun.
That's fun just in general.
Yeah, exactly.
So I wanted to talk about a little bit of your drum collection. I didn't want to disclose what you had, but I've noticed in some of your videos you have some awesome kits like the Camco, and you also had a vintage Yellow Pearl export that I've never heard one sound that good before.
Well, yeah, thanks, man. Yes, I do have. I have 6 drum sets now, which is unnecessary. But I love them. I love them. I love snare drums, and then the more I got into recording,
mm-hmm.
The more I enjoy the different drums and what they do. But yeah, I have.
Now, what is your go-to setup? I noticed you're on the Camco quite a bit there. Is that like your gig-oriented kit?
I've only taken the Camcos out for a gig once.
Oh, really?
Okay. Yeah, they're fairly new to the setup. I only got those a few months ago.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
And it really depends. It depends. If I have a session that I think requires a certain set, then I'll have it set up for that.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it's just preference.
Yeah.
It's just what I feel like playing. I did have the big my Yamaha recording custom set up for about a month,
mm-hmm.
With the 2 racks and the 2 floors, and I had extra DW concert toms on it because nice. I was using that set for this Ozzy Osbourne tribute band gig that I was filling in for.
Oh, nice.
Ozzy Osbourne Black Sabbath tribute band. A friend of mine in town, Gary Buzizi. Do you know Gary?
I probably do. I'm really bad with names and faces. Until I see
Gary's an awesome drummer in town. He played with Glenn Campbell's band for over 20 years.
Most likely I do. I'm really bad on the spot.
Oh, that's fine. But anyway, he's in this Ozzy Osbourne Black Sabbath tribute band, and he needed a sub. So I learned 20 of these tunes, which, there's a bunch of stuff. There's so much playing, and so many different drummers have been in those chairs over the years. It's really, you have a lot to pick from and a lot to learn as well. But you're kind of free, especially with the older Sabbath stuff. There's a lot of freedom to do your own thing,
Because Bill Moore was very open and jazzy. Like he was very
exactly. Like think of The Wizard, like that song, The Wizard. There's improv. It's his fills are never the same.
Yeah, and I don't mean this as a knock, but like he was always kind of behind Sabbath instead of on top of Sabbath when he played. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It felt like he was more pushing Tony Iommi through the riffs instead of being on top of it. That makes sense.
Yeah. Yes. No, it's. I've had a great time rediscovering. I was into Sabbath when I was a teenager.
Oh, nice.
But I never got really super deep into them to where I knew all the albums and all the names of songs on the album. So a lot of these tunes I was learning were new to me.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that's why I had the recording custom set up, because that was the kit I was going to use on the gig, so I was getting familiar with all of the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I took it down, I just was like, well, I feel like having the Camcos back in here for now, so
now,
put them back up.
Now, are you primarily playing Sabian, or are you kind of a mix between that and Zildjian?
Primarily Sabian these days. I used to be more or less only Zildjian, but I started creeping some Sabians into my collection maybe 10 years ago, and I just found that I really started loving the sound of those cymbals more than the other ones. So
yeah,
I've just been replacing the Zildjians over the years. So yeah, now I have all Sabian except for a couple of Zildjians left over and a couple of Istanbuls as well.
Yeah, just the keepers, pretty much.
Yeah, just ones that I want to keep for some reason.
And then as far as snare drum, what is your go-to as far as your workhorse in your studio playing?
Again, it's a tough choice.
Sorry,
you know, when you have so many snares.
I know. Sorry to throw that question at you, but
no. But you know, well, on gigs recently, I've been using this. Been using my new Hendrix maple snare drum.
Oh,
I
nice.
recently signed on with Hendrix as one of their artists, and I picked up one of their Perfect Fly maple snares, 8 by 14.
Oh, nice.
And it's just a beautiful high-end maple snare. I find a lot of the time for local gigs, my typical thing is to detune the snare a little bit and then put a rag on the top or like a root CQ pad and get that nice low-end, thud, a nice mushy sound. It's good for live gigs. It doesn't get in the way.
Yeah, you don't rim shot on top of the band all the time and stuff.
Right, exactly. And this drum does that really well, so I can detune it and use it. But I can also crank it, and it sounds like a normal maple snare. So honestly, since I got that Hendrix, I've been using it quite a lot for a lot of things.
Yeah, I've been seeing their name pop up here and there. I haven't got a chance to check them out myself personally.
Yeah, they're making really great stuff. They're in Houston.
Oh, nice.
And they make stuff. Yeah, American made. Just the ply. They have a ply series and they have a solid save series of drums that are just incredible. But I think if I had to pick one snare drum for the studio, or even for gigs, probably the oldest snare drum in my collection, which is this 1919 Ludwig and Ludwig nickel over brass.
Really?
Yeah, I think the model, judging from the vintage catalogs that I've looked up, it's called an all around.
Okay.
It's called a Ludwig and Ludwig all around snare drum from 1919, 6 lugs.
Oh, okay.
Straight hoops, and those drums. I mean, those drums in general, the 20s. Nickel over brass.
Well, they were literally built for war.
Well, yeah, either pre Black Beauty or once they started making Black Beauties, the price jumps up.
Yeah.
But for $200 or $300,
yeah,
you can pick up some of these drums and they will do anything.
Yeah,
they do, and they record so well. I had one on a country gig, and the guy was like, "That's the best snare you've ever brought to this gig. It's unbelievable."
Yeah.
So I think if I had to pick one, it would be one of those old Luddies because they're just ridiculous.
Now, I know this is a big subject, but I mean, like I was mentioning earlier, your recordings, like you said, you've tuned it to make it sound good on the phone. What's your main interface and software that you're using to accomplish that?
Okay, yeah. So I use I don't have like an interface as such. With mic pre's built into it. I have a bunch of separate mic pre's, and then I have for my conversion, I have an Apogee AD16X.
Oh, nice.
Which it's an older unit, but they're just fantastic.
Yeah.
That's top shelf. People are still making records on these things, and I got it used for $1,500. Not that much.
Oh, not bad.
Considering how high end it is. I have one of those, and I also have an Apogee Rosetta. So I've got essentially 24 channels of really nice conversion if I want. So that alone is a big part of a great sound, or the basis of a great sound in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
I think, not to go off on a tangent, but I think especially nowadays with the multitude of plugins that are available, and they're great. Don't get me wrong, they are great. But I think now there's more of a chance of the misconception that the plugins can do all of the work for you, and you don't have to know how to mic properly. You don't have to have the, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
But all you have to do is look at what the national studios are doing. Like, they all start with great drums, great mics, great stuff. Like, that's where they start, and from there up, and then it's just an enhancement of everything. And so I think that's important, like knowing a little bit about mic placement, like for example, pointing the tom mic at the middle of the tom instead of straight down.
Mm-hmm.
These are really small things that make a big difference to the sound,
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I have the apogee for conversion, and then just an assortment of mic pre's.
Nice.
And I think, and the mics that I have, I don't have really any high end mics. I have Sennheiser 604s on the toms. I have a 602 inside the kick. I have a Solomon outside the kick for the low end.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have a third mic outside the kick for the mid range, like either an RE20, one of those EV RE20 mics,
mm-hmm.
something that captures that mid range knock. And you combine those three mics together, and you get that nice kick sound.
Yeah, no, it sounds great. Like I said, so you're pretty much using realistic mics. You're not, using 10.
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Always. Yeah. Just normal mics. My overheads are just the Rode NT5.
Oh, nice.
They're what, 300, 400 for a pair. They're not expensive at all.
Yeah.
I would love to have a pair of Coles, whatever those ribbon mics are, but those are like 2,500 a pair. That's another. And I'll upgrade when the studio income justifies the upgrade. Like it's doing fine the way it is, and but until I can justify, I'm not going to spend that kind of money.
Yeah, and then if I had a guess on the choice of heads, are you using coated Emperors? Because what it sounds like to me.
Coated Ambassadors mostly, but I do have Emperors on I think it's Emperors on the recording custom kit right now. Actually,
that was close. I know that distinct like Emperor sound, and that I like. I like the vintage Emperors myself. They just sound good on everything.
Oh, I have never tried those.
They're good. They're a little bit thicker than your common Emperors. It's like 2 and something ply. I'm probably wrong, but yeah. Every time I put them on a tom, the Lubbock kit I'm playing, they just sound perfect.
Oh man, I have to try those.
Yeah, and they're not the easiest ones to find in the store, but you can definitely order those.
Yeah.
But
I got some black dots recently as well to try.
Oh yeah, I've had those running on the bottom of my Lubbock kit. That's something experimental, but it actually does work.
Oh, I bet that'd be cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't choke it out too much, but with the coated Emperor on top, and then the black down on the bottom, it gives it like that perfect, like not too choke, but just like enough, on a big maple shell.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely. I tried it and someone recommended it to me, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've always wanted to try them. I'm a big Tony Williams fan, and they did. I just never have really got a set, so I got some and put them on my Ludwig standard.
Oh, nice.
And they sound great. Oh, they sound so great.
Yeah,
love those. I love the attack. The attack off a clear head is nice compared to the coated.
Now, I wanted to talk about what you're doing as far as playing. I know due to obvious reasons. What are you currently? I know you're playing with a band called Vinyl Station, but what are you guys currently up to right now?
It sounds like it's breaking up a little bit. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. You hear me?
Okay, that's better now. Yeah, it was doing that weird swirly thing for a second.
I was just basically asking what you were up to with your band due to current reasons.
Oh, the Vinyl Station.
Yeah.
Okay, so we just did, obviously we haven't been doing too much. Since lockdown, we've done a couple of full band shows where we've played in people's driveways stuff like that. Actually, one of those shows, Steve Gadd sat in.
Really? For the whole show, just a couple of songs?
He sat in for a few songs.
Oh, wow. How did that feel?
It was amazing. It was just ridiculous.
Yeah, he knew the songs pre, or he kind of just improvised. So what did he do? Like
he wanted. So, he wanted to. He's like, send me some stuff to check out. So Matthew, the singer, and I said, okay, let's send him these ones. We sent him these original songs.
Uh-huh.
And he showed up to the gig with charts for our songs.
Wow.
And I mean, he just couldn't be nicer, couldn't be humbler. He just loves to play. We chatted for a while. We talked about rudiments. We chatted on the phone the next week. I mean, it's just it was an unbelievable opportunity and experience because he moved to town a few years ago. Obviously, you know that.
Yeah, I hear him here and there, but he's like one of those guys don't really want to harass. He's kind of.
Well, that's it. I actually in 2014 I saw him at LA Fitness in Phoenix. I was over there when I still lived over there in Phoenix. Before I moved to, I'm in Chandler now, the suburbs basically. But
yeah,
I saw him at the gym. His son his son and his wife were taking like personal fitness lessons or training or whatever, and Gad was just kind of going around the machines with them, while they were doing it.
Uh-huh.
And I just couldn't help myself. I just found myself before I knew it was happening. I was walking up to him with my arm out.
Well, he's like he's a drummer celebrity. Like the most common folks probably want put a face to the name, but like any drummer would be like, oh my god.
I know. I was like, And I was just like, I'm so sorry, man. I had to say something. I've just been a huge fan my whole life. And he was like, oh, he was so kind. He was like, oh man, you're a drummer. Come and meet my son. And he was asking me, who do you play with? Maybe I can come and see you sometime. Like he wanted to. He was just like another drummer. Unbelievable, unbelievable. So, fast forward to a few months ago, it wasn't surprising at all the way he was. Like. He showed up and just, he had his charts. He played. I brought him my old Rogers kit because I knew he had a Rogers kit when he was young.
Oh, nice.
And that's the first thing he said. He's like, man, is that an old Rogers? And I was like, yeah, man.
Nice.
And so anyway, we've been doing a few of those gigs. And then most recently we were over at the recordingartist.com with Otto Daniolo. Do you know that whole thing? Do you know Otto?
What was that again? I lost you.
It's called there's a guy in town named Otto, Otto Daniolo, and he has he's been in town. He's a producer. He's a music producer in town and musician. And he's had various projects over the years. His recent thing though is a show called the recordingartist.com. Where basically bands come in. He has subscribers to his website, his thing, and bands come in and cut a song there and then with the internet audience watching and commenting, basically.
Oh wow!
It's really cool. It's a really cool thing. It's basically giving the world a live insight into the studio process, how it works, all of the stuff that a lot of people don't get to see. So
cool.
We got to do that a few weeks ago, which was really cool. And we ended up with some good songs. I actually have a Dropbox folder of songs to go through and listen to the mixes and see what we're going to keep and what we're not going to keep and whatnot. But he has a great facility.
Oh, nice.
And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get. We have some songs recorded, but we're just trying to get more done. The problem is obviously money, having the money and the time to go in and do it. So. This was really nice to be able to get in and get some stuff done.
Now, that's why I wanted. What would be the best place for people to reach out to you for session and recording work?
I don't know. Probably Instagram. DM me on Instagram.
Okay.
Or find me on Instagram. Roy_G_Cameron.
Oh, nice.
Or my email, okay. It's all there.
I'll definitely post the links for you so I can get some people over there.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I've just been trying to build that business since lockdown is build my network of clients, which everybody, of course, is trying to do. So the competition's fiercer than ever in the recording world.
Yeah, but not many guys have their drums sounding as good as you do. I mean,
oh, thanks, man.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely a top shelf, sounding there, and I don't say that, a lot, but like.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
As soon as I start watching the videos, I'm like, man, this guy actually knows what he's doing. You know what I mean? Like, I see a lot of different, people just throwing a room mic in front of a kit, and it's like, oh, come on,
Yeah, I figure I have all this time, and I get inspired when I see people like Ash Zone, for example.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of my favorite guys on Instagram to check out. Like, he cares about his videos. They always sound amazing. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite drummers to listen to anyway.
And then, is there any other drummers you would recommend checking out besides him?
Yeah, absolutely. Steve Haas. If anybody's not familiar with Steve Haas, Hass, check that guy out. He is incredible. Amazing drummer. Has played with Manhattan Transfer, John Scofield,
Oh, nice.
Ravi Coltrane. I love Steve Haas because he is such a chameleon. He can do anything, and the thing about him, he doesn't do it. He does it authentically every time. No matter if he's playing Brazilian music, you think it's a Brazilian guy playing. If he's playing traditional swing, you think it's an old guy. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Wow.
And I love that about him. Back to my early teacher in Scotland, he was very versatile, doing all kinds of different stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think from that point, I wanted to be one of those drummers. I didn't want to just be like in a pop band. You know, I love so many different types of music. I wanted to be able to kind of tackle them, nice. Most of them. So that's why I love Steve Haas. He's just incredible. I took a lesson with him in New York in 2005, and it was amazing. He's incredible. So I listened to him a lot. Ash Zone, Mark Juliana, love Mark Juliana. Aaron Sterling.
Oh, nice.
Jerry Rowe. Jerry Rowe is one of the top Nashville session drummers.
Oh, nice.
Who again plays all styles, not just country. But I listen to a lot of the different Nashville guys because as a session drummer, it's kind of like a guidebook of what to do and what not to do in a way, you know.
And Nashville has some of the tightest competition too.
Yeah, and basically it's like a small group of guys that are doing all of the stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And so I listen to those guys for tone choices, like how are they tuning their drums, how are they, you know. I try and emulate that, or I get a lot out of listening to those guys. Another one is his name is Fred Eltringham.
Oh, nice.
Really great Nashville drummer. And I you know, I figure these guys are doing so much recording work. Mm-hmm. Well, why not listen to? I mean, they're just such a joy to listen to. They just know how to make.
Yeah.
They craft great parts. They play the right stuff every time. It's just great.
Yeah.
Aaron Sterling, I love him. He's creative and funny and great sounds every time. Massively inspired by him. Dave Elich.
Oh yeah, I know Dave for sure.
Yeah, I went and took a lesson with Dave a couple of years ago. I flew to LA for the day.
Oh, nice.
And took a 3-hour lesson with Dave, which changed my life.
Really?
Absolutely, yeah. If any one teacher has changed me more than anything, it's Dave.
Yeah, and he's like one of those guys you see playing with Miley Cyrus 1 minute, the next he's shredding 5 minutes later. You know.
Yeah, exactly. He's like a hired gun, but on the highest level.
Yeah.
You know, and that's massively inspiring as well. When I listen to him talk about preparing for that Miley Cyrus gig, mm-hmm. and you know how he wasn't going to get a run through of the show on a stadium show and stuff like that, but then then the production crew basically at the last minute said, okay, we're going to show up early so you can run through the show once. And, you know, just that kind of pressure. It's just amazing to me and inspiring.
That's a lot.
So when I'm back here in Phoenix speaking out about my Aussie gig, I'm like, it's okay. It's just a tribute band. It's not Miley Cyrus. You got this. You know what I mean? Like it's inspiring.
You got to treat everything as the biggest thing. You know, I mean, I always think you can never
absolutely.
Yeah. So you have the attitude. You kind of land on your feet either way.
Yeah, exactly. I always would prefer to be over prepared mm-hmm. rather than caught with your pants down.
Yeah,
you know,
bringing extra pairs of sticks, drum heads, everything.
yeah, everything. Yeah. But Dave Elich, his teaching methods and he just has it figured out. He has the body mechanics figured out. How to get about doing things with the least amount of effort. I mean, I came away from that lesson and I had a gig the next night. I basically changed 90% of how I was setting things up on the drums after his lesson. Yeah, because, you know, you go for a lesson with Dave and the first thing he has you do is sit behind the drums and set them up the way you want them set up. Mm-hmm. And then he has you play just a meat and potatoes groove for 10 seconds. And in that time, he knows exactly what needs to be addressed, you know?
Yeah.
And for me, it was a combination of things, like sitting too low, playing heel down too much, mm-hmm. Leaving the beater on the head, sometimes leaving the snare stick on the head, not realizing it, slouching.
Mm-hmm.
It's a number of things that you don't realize you're doing until somebody who knows is standing there watching you, you know?
Yeah, posture and breathing is a lot of it too.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. In fact, the first thing he has you work on is posture before you're even playing anything.
Mm-hmm.
Is just sitting down behind the drums and being balanced and grounded and having no tension. Like, just getting to that point is not easy if you're not used to doing it, you know?
Yeah. Everyone's got bad habits when it comes to that.
Yeah, for sure. So, and aside from his teaching, I mean, his drumming is incredible. If you're into metal drumming at all, check out Killer Be Killed.
Okay.
That album he did with them. I think he won some kind of UK metal drummer award for that. I mean, it's just some of the cleanest metal drumming I've heard, and the pocket is great. It's great. It kind of reminded me when I listened to Vinnie Colaiuta when he did that Megadeth album.
Oh yeah, that's right. I totally forgot about that.
And it's just like, oh my god, this is like metal with some serious pocket. It was great.
Yeah.
It was so great.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back and listen to that again. It's been a while since I listened to that.
Yeah, that's a great record. The System Has Failed, I think it's called.
Yeah, I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Rory, I just want to thank you for coming on the show today. I know it was a little bit of short notice, but I would love to have you again sometime when things kind of clear up and we kind of talk about your current gigs. And like I said, I could probably talk to you hours just about recording gear and all that stuff. I didn't want to do that to you.
Oh no, that's fine. There was one other thing I want to mention about the recording and the plugins.
Oh, please,
because everybody's using obviously some kind of plugins. Like the big ones are either the Slate digital ones or the Universal Audio, right? Those are the ones that people are using. But after going down various gear sluts rabbit holes and just by learning myself, these plugins, these analog modeling plugins, they don't like to be hit too hard, meaning you don't want to have your gains on your preamp set too high when you're recording. So gain staging basically is extremely important for these plugins because basically when my levels are hitting the faders in Pro Tools, they're not coming up even halfway, which gives me a lot of headroom to let the plugins do their thing, If you record too hot, you have very small room to work in before you start clipping.
Okay.
And so these plugins need a lot of headroom for them to work properly, in my experience.
Okay.
And so when you look at my recording levels, everything is pretty low for the most part, and then I let the plugins do their work because obviously I have a small studio. I don't have a lot of outboard gear, as it's known. I don't have a lot of compressors and stuff like that. Everything is in my computer.
Nice.
And so it's important that when it gets to the computer, that it's at the right level for those things to do their job properly.
Yeah, you don't want to go too high right away. Have nothing to work with, pretty much.
Exactly. You're kind of throttling yourself if you do that. So something to think about.
Well, yeah, like I said, I'm definitely gonna, over time, I'm definitely gonna be picking your brain and asking you some dumb questions. So be prepared for that.
Oh, please text me, call me anytime. As you can tell, I'm quite happy to sit here and talk about drums all day.
Oh yeah, I bet. But once again, before I let you go, the best place to reach out to you said was your Instagram. At what handle again?
Instagram at Roy_G_Cameron.
Okay.
On my website, roycameron.com. You can contact me through there.
All right. Well, I'll be sure to post that link to help you out there. But Rory, once again, thanks a lot, and I hope to do this with you again pretty soon.
Oh, me too, Dustin. It was really fun. Thanks so much.
All right. You guys all have a good day and check it out. Thank you.